What if Deku married a spider girl? As first, before this video begins, I would like to mention that I'll be retconning two things from the video from part 1. Basically, Arachne would be bullied for being or looking like a spider, as people would think this would be looking like a villainous quirk, so she would be bullied for that. As for the second option, she'll be trying to prove to herself that Izuku is the same as everyone else is, but she would realize that he isn't. He's the boy that saved her that day. That would be the end of part 1 for that recon, or retcon as I like to say. Now let's begin. We're going to begin with a recap with All Might giving Izuku his quirk and Izuku training for that week before he had to go back to school. When Izuku was walking to the gate, Arachne stopped him and asked him, "Izuku, where are you going?" Arachne shouted at him. As Izuku turned around to see Arachne running at him, as Izuku spread his arms out wide, as she tackled him to the ground, mauling him and tickling him like mad with her feet. As most people around them said, "What's that villain doing?" As she got mad at that, but she still completely ignored it because her Izuku was here with her, so nothing would matter. She tied him up into like a weird bondage type of way and carried him over her back, carrying him into school. As Izuku and Arachne both sat down onto the chairs. "What you think you're doing, villain?" Bakugo slammed his hand on the desk, scaring Arachne a tiny bit, but still she didn't flinch. "What do you want, Bakugo?" "Well, you're a villain, so it's better off just letting you die now than later," Bakugo said, as Arachne got annoyed at this, but she calmed down. "Don't you dare annoy me, villain," Bakugo said, shouting at her. As Bakugo placed his hand on her shoulder, as Izuku finally had enough, as he stood up saying, "Katsuki, stop, you're gonna hurt her," Izuku said. "So what? She's a villain. She deserves it. She's going to hurt people in the future, so why should I care?" As Izuku got annoyed at this, as he was about to punch Bakugo, as the teacher was just standing outside, just waiting for this to be done, as Bakugo let off an explosion, throwing it at the wall to try and scare Izuku, but Izuku didn't flinch as he threw Bakugo to the wall. "You damn bastard," Bakugo shouted, as Izuku and Arachne both sat down while the teacher walked in. Now students, be quiet down," as they began the lesson, as we do a time skip of when the lunch break happens, as Izuku and Arachne was both eating their lunches outside, as Bakugo picked up Izuku by the collar, choking him and also throwing an explosion at his stomach. "You damn bastard, you think you can get away with siding with the villain?" Bakugo shouted, as his Bakugo tried to beat the shit out of Izuku, giving him some bruises and bumps and also some cuts as well, also making him a little bit weak. Izuku didn't fight back, however, because Izuku wants to be a hero, so he doesn't want to pick on the weak, as this infuriated Arachne because one of her bullies is bullying someone she likes. Before Bakugo can throw one more explosion, Arachne tied him by the waist with her webs, flinging him into the wall brutally as well, as Arachne started brutally beating up Bakugo, breaking both of his arms in the process of this, making him wince out in pain, as most of the students came rushing out because they heard a loud thump as they saw Arachne beating up Bakugo, as the teacher decided to break this up, as the teacher saw both Izuku and Bakugo heavily injured, as they told Arachne to go up to the principal's office immediately, which she did so. As she got to the principal's office, the principal shouted at her, saying she might be expelled for this if she does this shit again, but she might be expelled now if she's not lucky enough. As Izuku came to in the nurse's office, as she wondered where Arachne was, as the nurse told her where she was, as Izuku rushed to the principal's office to see Arachne crying. As Izuku walked up to Arachne wondering what was wrong, as she told him that she might be expelled, as Izuku stood up for her saying, "This wasn't her fault, she did not do that to me." Izuku said, "It was Bakugo." As the principal said, "I beg to differ for eyewitnesses." "Eyewitnesses?" Huh, making me laugh, Izuku said. Everyone here hates me and her for being either quirkless or her having a villain quirk, Izuku shouted. Well then, let's look at the injuries that she gave him. Bite marks, that's probably laced with poison, beating him brutally and breaking both of his arms. This is enough to get her arrested, you know that, right? I'm aware of that, but it was in self-defense, Izuku said. Bullshit, it was in self-defense. Bullshit eyewitnesses. As I've just said before, they probably just hate us for being quirkless or having no quirk at all, Izuku said, getting furiously angry. You want to know what real power is? Look at All Might. Look how strong he is. He can level cities with just one punch. That's power, and you think he's not a villain? Izuku shouted at the principal, as the principal started to ignore Izuku, as Izuku would have given up with him, as he just said, Joe, if I had a quirk, would you listen? Izuku said, as the principal still ignored him, but Izuku just powered up as much percentages as he could remember how to use. He was still learning about how to use full cowling, but he got the grasp of it, as he punched the wall, breaking it entirely down with 8%, as the principal was shocked at this. What the hell did you do to my wall, you bastard? The principal shouted at Izuku. Well, I'm proving a point now, aren't I? You need to actually look into this, don't you? Instead of just blaming it all on Mia's villainous quirk, as you would like to put it, Izuku said, as Izuku and Arachne both walked out of the room, leaving the principal in utter shock. As we do a time skip for another 9 or 2 months before the entrance exam, as Izuku and Arachne was both still training with All Might, as in the thumbnail for part 1, that Izuku's body what it would look like now, toned and muscular, as his percentage of 1-for-all would have increased to 10% all the way to 55% in that span of 9 months. Izuku and Arachne's training would have increased a lot more throughout the months, as Izuku would have found out Shu style, Gran Torino style of movement, and his air bullet really earlier than in canon. As we do a time skip for the last day before the entrance exam, Izuku and Arachne was both sitting on their benches outside of their homes, waiting for the bus. As Izuku and Arachne was both sitting there holding hands, as I think you guys will know where this is going, as Izuku and Arachne was both cuddling with each other waiting for the bus. 5 minutes after that, the bus arrived, picking them both up, as Arachne took up 2 seats because of how big her behind is. Most of the people on that bus were staring at Arachne with disgust and weirdness in their eyes, as Izuku looked back with bloodlust in his eyes to try and scare them off, as it succeeded, as most of them just turned back around and just whistled. As Izuku and Arachne both arrived at the UA gates, as they both were talking before they started to walk in, and sat down at the desk ready to be taught by President Mike of what the exam's going to be like, as everything happened like in the original. Ida would snap, but he would turn around and sit back down, not like the original when he stood up and argued with Izuku or Bakugo, telling him to shut up. As for what would happen with Bakugo, as we go to Bakugo's point of view, back a week before the entrance exam, Bakugo finally recovered from his injuries and the quote-unquote poison that Mia the Spider Girl gave him, as Bakugo trained like his life depending on it, only getting 20% of his muscle mass that he got in the original, so he's basically looking more or less like skin and bone right now. As we cut back to Izuku, and I can't remember the name of the Spider Girl, I do apologize, it slipped my mind halfway through recording, as Izuku slipped into his gym uniform as he went outside to start his physical exam when he destroys all the robots, as Izuku and the Spider Girl, sorry if I get it wrong, as Izuku and her both went outside to start getting ready. Ida came up to them asking them, he apologized for shouting at them if they directed at them, as Ida bowed his head, as Izuku replied saying, "It's fine man, don't worry about it," Izuku said. as they both got into running stance as President Mike was ready to set go, as they all started running in, with Izuku charging 5% one for all, running in at max speed, surpassing Ida. As for Arachne, she started swinging from building to building using her webs. While she was training with All Might, she figured out she can use it from her wrists as well, as she was swinging by and pass again. And then she decided to pass Ida as she destroyed most of the robots, throwing them past her head onto the ground, smashing them into little pieces. As she continued this for another 500, around about 15 3-pointers, 3 5-pointers, and 16 1-pointers, destroying them all. As Izuku, around this time, 10 minutes after when the UA entrance exam started, he got specifically around about 80 points using 5%. Izuku heard rumbling on the ground around this time, so he decided to ignore it as he started to run away from it. But what he didn't realize was it was where he was running, as Izuku saw a giant robot coming for a punch at him, so he dodged it as he decided to run up the robot's arm and threw a 55% Detroit smash at its head, breaking the robot worse than the original cannon part. And what Izuku didn't realize was this was the 0-point robot that was hyped up in the entrance when President Mike was talking about it. When Izuku was falling, Arachne thought this was her chance as she grabbed Izuku with her webs, pulling him close, wrapping him up in a cobweb, or a web per se, as she just hugged him tightly, saying, "Izuku, alright?" putting his head between her breasts. As Recovery Girl came to heal anyone that needed healing, as that day went on as usual. Izuku and Arachne both chilled out after school and everything like that, just like the original, because how close they have gotten. As everyone got their UA entrance exam acceptance letters, as Izuku got first place, Arachne got second, as Bakugo, for him, he got third place, as everyone else got their original scores. As we do the first day of UA, as Izuku and Arachne are both walking into the UA, as they went around looking for 1A, 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 where is 1A? As they both turned around to see a giant 1A door. "Oh, that's quite a big door, isn't it, Arachne?" Izuku said. "Quite a big one indeed, but why would you need a door that big?" As they both opened the door to walk in, as everyone stopped and just stared at Izuku, him being the one who destroyed the 0-pointer. As Izuku and Arachne was both nervous, saying, "Excuse me, but why are you staring at us?" Izuku and Arachne said in unison. Ida wouldn't walk up to Izuku in this timeline because he would have already apologized for saying stuff to Izuku. But this time, Bakugo ran up to Izuku, threatening to kill him if he didn't give him back his rightful place in #1 spot. Bakugo shouted, "Well then, if you didn't do the things you did in middle school, just maybe you would have got a #1 spot," Izuku said. "Why, you little bats," as he was about to throw an explosion as he was stopped by Aizawa's quirk erasing. "Mr. Bakugo, if you do this type of stunt again, you will be expelled from UA. You got that?" Aizawa said. "Alright class, go put these gym uniforms on and meet me outside." As this is where we're gonna leave part 2 of Spider-Girl. If you guys would like more of this series, try and get this video to 200 likes and I will make part 3 as fast as possible. And I'll see you guys in a bit.